Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson begins day 2 of her SCOTUS confirmation hearing by speaking on her judicial philosophy. I'm acutely aware that as a judge in our system, I have limited power, and I'm trying in every case to stay in my lane. I have not been paying attention to this at all. I have no idea who this is. I don't know what the Supreme Court is. I don't know what the criminal justice system is. I don't know anything.
In order to...
Would you like to comment at the outset of those who are looking for a label, what your position is on judicial philosophy?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Over the course of
who's she even replacing?
Almost decade on the bench, I have developed a methodology that I use in order to ensure that I am ruling impartially and that I am adhering to the limits on my judicial authority.
Holy shit! Does she not sound like a sitcom character? That does her intonation not sound like she would be on like Parks and Rec or something? Does anyone know what I'm talking about?
Methodology that I use in order to ensure that I am ruling impartially and that I am adhering to the limits on my judicial authority.
The way she's
the
way she's like the way she's enunciating in like a very like an actor would. I don't know. Like it just comes across like very it's charismatic isn't the word I'm looking for, but it is a kind of charisma. It's like a very deliberate way. It could be she's nervous. Well yeah, sure. That could cause that. Like a crafted speech, if that makes any sense.
Acutely aware that as a judge in our system, I have limited power, and I am trying in every case to stay in my lane. And so what I do is I essentially follow 3 steps. The first step is when I get a case, I ensure that I am proceeding from a position of neutrality. This means that, you get a case and it's about something and it's submitted by certain parties. I am clearing my mind of any preconceived notions about how the case might come out.
Jesus Christ, she's so defensive here. I understand, like, so when Supreme Court justices are getting their confirmation hearing, they are being subjected to literally the world's most pressing job interview. Like intel agencies are running background checks on you. It's like a whole thing, right? She's probably doing everything that she can to avoid coming across like a radical or an activist judge here, which makes a lot of sense.
Setting aside any personal views, it's very important that judges rule without fear or favor. The second step is once I've cleared the deck.
Would it be that much to ask that our federal agencies get a fucking mic guard? Like anything? Like what I have? They cost like 50 cents. Okay.
So to speak, in this way, I am able to receive all of the appropriate inputs for the case. That is the parties' arguments. They've written briefs.
Hey, it's me. I'm applying for the most important job ever. Hey, this is in the congressional record. Sorry. You didn't deserve that.
Sometimes we have a hearing. Sometimes we hear from other parties, amici in a case. And then there's the factual record. I am evaluating all of the facts from various perspectives. I think my experience, all of the various experiences that I've had, really helps me at this stage to see the perspectives of all of the parties and to understand their arguments.
All right. Literally, I'm just only getting into this now. Instant feelings, vibe check. I kind of like her. I get an honest vibe from her. Her nervousness and her compensating for, I guess, the perception that others will rule her an activist judge. That's what I'm assuming. Seems to me like I don't know. The way she's handling it doesn't come across like an extremely like calculated, disingenuous. Like, you know how Kamala Harris, okay, not just Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton's the best example of this. You know how even when Hillary Clinton says something objectively correct, like you feel like there's
Would you
slime
like to
dripping,
comment?
there's slime dripping off your like eardrums after you've heard it, you know? Like, I don't know. Sometimes it's just a vibe check, and that stuff can matter. Okay, let's take a look at selected rulings, huh? Ketanji Brown Jackson. Selected rulings. Okay, so wait, here, hold on. Federal judge, U.S. State Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit since 2021. Young judge. I mean, we can tell that by looking at her. You know, she's clearly not like 70 years old. Let's see. How old is she? 51 years old. My God. 51. That is pretty goddamn young for a Supreme Court judge. Okay. Attended Harvard Law. Legal career with 3 clerkships. She was a clerk for Stephen Breyer. Oh. Well, there we go, don't we? Okay. So we have an in. Let's see. Member of the Harvard Board of Overseers. President Joe Biden nominated. Retirement. First black woman to sit on the Supreme Court. Huh. Okay. Well, let's see. Selected rulings. In American Meat Institute versus U.S. Department of Agriculture, Jackson rejected the meatpacking industry's request for a preliminary injunction to block a Department of Agriculture rule requiring them to identify animals' country of origins. Jackson found the rule likely did not violate the First Amendment. Nice. That's a ruling that I agree with. So she rejected the meat industry's attempt to block the Department of Agriculture's attempt to get them to identify animals' country of origin. They were arguing that violates the First Amendment? What a reach. Jesus. Corporations, man. In DepotMed versus Department of Health and Human Services, Jackson ruled the FDA had violated the Administrative Procedure Act when it failed to grant pharmaceutical company DepotMed market exclusivity for its orphan drug, Graylease. Jackson concluded the Orphan Drug Act required the FDA to grant Graylease exclusivity. I don't know about the Orphan Drug Act. Let's see. A law passed to facilitate the development of orphan drugs for rare diseases such as Huntington's, myoclonus, ALS, Tourette syndrome, muscular dystrophy, which affect small numbers of individuals residing in the U.S. Orphan drug designation does not indicate the therapeutic is either safe or effective or legal to manufacture. The process is handled through the FDA. The designation only means that the sponsor qualifies for certain benefits from the federal government, such as market exclusivity and reduced taxes. Okay, I think I understand. So the idea is that there are some diseases that are so rare that there's not really a strong market incentive to develop medicine for them normally, you know? Like Huntington's disease is very rare. So like, you know, a company's not going to invest billions in R&D to produce a medication that's like as reliable as you would get for medication on like diseases that affect a ton of people. So I think the Orphan Drug Act is basically saying, hey, listen, okay, we get there's like no way you can afford to develop medication that will address these problems. So we'll give you tax benefits, we'll give you exclusivity over the drugs you produce, and you don't have to make them as safe as the other drugs because we know you literally can't afford to. We're basically lowering the bar. We're making it so you can do like something instead of not being able to do anything. I know that sounds bad, but I genuinely think the alternative to this, as I understand it, would be no medication coming out at all for those conditions. It's basically like there's just no market incentive at all to meet the incredibly high bar for regular medicine production. So instead it's like, you know, okay, we'll let you get away with a lower bar if it means getting anything out there. Not a perfect solution, but I do understand why it's there. So it seems like in line with that law, Jackson ruled the FDA has violated that law when it failed to grant DepotMed market exclusivity for its orphan drug Graylease. I want to know what condition this was meant to cure. treat pain from damaged nerves that follow shingles. How common are shingles? I don't know if I've ever heard of a person having shingles. I've just heard the term. Oh, geez. Common. More than 200,000 cases per year. But this isn't just treating shingles. It's treating nerve damage following shingles. Which I suppose meets the definition for orphan drug. Interesting. Well, I'm not a doctor, but I'm just interested. In Pierce versus District of Columbia, Jackson ruled the D.C. Department of Corrections violated the rights of a deaf inmate under the American with Disabilities Act. Oh, based. Because jail officials failed to provide the inmate with reasonable accommodations or to assess his need for reasonable accommodations during his detention in 2012. Jackson held that the district's willful blindness regarding Pierce's need for accommodation and its half-hearted attempt to provide Pierce with a random assortment of auxiliary aids, and only after he specifically requested them, fell far short of what the law requires. Based. No notes. No notes. In April and June 2018, Jackson presided over 2 cases challenging the Department of Health and Human Services' decision to terminate grants for teen pregnancy prevention programs 2 years early. Jackson ruled that the decision to terminate the grants early, without any explanation for doing so, was arbitrary and capricious. Based. No notes. This is like the court judge version of saying "fuck you," I think. I don't know if she can stop them from doing that, but you know. In American Federation of Government Employees AFL-CIO versus Trump, Jackson invalidated provisions of 3 executive orders that would have limited the time federal employee labor union officials could spend with union members, the issues that unions could bargain over in negotiations, and the rights of disciplined workers to appeal disciplinary actions. Based. Jackson concluded that the executive orders violated the right of federal employees to collectively bargain as guaranteed by the Federal Service Labor Management Relations Statute. In 2019, the D.C. Circuit, ruling that Judge Jackson had wrongly asserted jurisdiction, reversed and vacated her decision. Ooh, the D.C. Circuit said that she had wrongly asserted jurisdiction over this versus Trump? The question as to whether or not she would have jurisdiction over this case is one which I do not have any legal knowledge of. I can't make any comments on that. In 2018, Jackson dismissed that 40 wrongful death and product liability lawsuits stemming from the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370, which had been combined into a single multi-district litigation. Jackson held that under the doctrine of forum non-convenience, the suit should be brought in Malaysia, not the U.S. The D.C. Circuit affirmed this ruling in 2020. Again, this requires legal knowledge that I don't have. I don't know, like, how you would make that determination. Center for Biological Diversity versus... Okay, I'm just going to skim over these a little bit. Jackson held that Congress had, through the Illegal Immigration Reform and Immigrant Responsibility Act, stripped federal courts of jurisdiction to hear non-constitutional challenges to the U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security's decision to waive. Okay, based. Preliminary injunction. Trump about immigration court hearings from Dr. Based. Rolling here. Let's just say this one's based too. Okay, I like her. All right, what are these clips? Sorry, now we know.
I thought about his charges as I watched you and your family listening carefully yesterday, and what impact it might have had on you personally to know that your daughter's husband...
When they decide...
Wait, what? Durbin asked Jackson what was going through her mind, especially with her kids being there, as Holly made his meritless attacks on her for being soft on child porn. Wait, does anyone have a clip of that? Was that from the first day of the hearing? Wait, does somebody have a clip of that? Vosh, it's so bad. Oh God, I missed... Context? Wait, was that it right there? Majority Report did a segment on it? Being baselessly accused of liking CP? She's just like me. Here, wait, let me just... If I just look up Hawley.
Senator Hawley of Missouri.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Judge, congratulations on your nomination. It's nice to see you again. Congratulations to all of your family. I know that this is a big moment for you and for them, and rightly so. I enjoyed our meeting a couple of weeks ago. You know, as I've said to folks who've asked about it, one of the things I particularly appreciated about our meeting—
Very curious, considering that Holly has the physiognomy of a child rapist. Anyone who disagrees with me has never seen American Psycho.
besides how much time you gave me, was how candid and forthcoming you were, which I really respected. And I look forward to a candid conversation again in the days that come. And by the way, I'm admiring how you're sitting so stoically through all of this senator talk. But I'm looking forward to visiting with you again. You did me the honor when we sat down of being very candid. And I hope I was candid with you. I've been candid since. I want to be candid with you today so you know exactly what it is I want to talk about. And so you know exactly where my head is at. So let me.
There's rape of children in American Psycho? I don't think so, but, like, they all would, right? Like, the movie didn't have that, but all the characters in the movie totally would, right?
Say a few things that I'm concerned about, aspects of your record that trouble me. This will come as no surprise. I've said it in public already, but I want to be, again, very candid in the interest of an open and honest discussion and specifics. So here are, I hope, in the next couple of days, some of the cases from your time on the court, the district court, the federal district court, that I hope that we can talk about. Let me just run through a few of them so you know exactly which ones I mean. United States versus Hawkins. This was a child pornography case where the defendant distributed multiple images of child porn, possessed dozens more, including videos.
That's bad.
The federal sentencing guidelines recommended a sentence of 97 to 121 months in prison. Prosecutors recommended 24 months in prison. Judge Jackson gave the defendant 3 months in prison. United States versus Chazen. That case, the defendant possessed 48 files of child pornography. The federal guidelines recommended 78 to 97 months in prison. The prosecutor recommended the same. Judge Jackson sentenced him to 28 months. United States versus Cooper. There, the defendant possessed dozens of images of child pornography.
Wait, how many cases of child pornography possession has she presided over? Is that common? As a circuit court judge? Wait, what? How often does this come up? 7+? Jesus Christ.
And distributed dozens of images of child pornography.
They should have sent those cases off to Judge Judy. Who agrees? Okay? Listen, all right? The public spectacle and the shame that comes from it will be worse than any fucking jail sentence or prison sentence, okay? Send them off. I want to see the Judge Judy treatment for those ones. Just imagine her incredulously reading through the document. Or no, getting the fucking pedo to say it, like, out loud. Like, how many pictures? And the pedo's like, I don't know, like, 2,376. And Judge Judy's just, like, fuming over there.
Possessed over 600. The federal guidelines recommended 151 to 188 months in prison. That's a long time. The prosecutor recommended 72 months. Judge Jackson gave the defendant 60 months, which was the lowest sentence permitted by the law. United States versus Down, that's a case where the defendant distributed 33 graphic images and videos of child sexual assault to an anonymous messaging app, unfortunately a practice that's becoming more common. The federal guidelines recommended.
Okay, one thing that's missing from this, again, this is hardly my area of expertise, despite what people might claim, but one thing that's missing from this is, so if does she typically sentence people to lower than the prosecutor's recommendation, you know? Like, if she has a habit of doing this in pretty much all cases, then it seems like you could like go like, all right, well, you're just choosing these because these are like the optically bad ones, but she does this for like all of them, you know? A liberal judge, I imagine, will be less likely to sentence people for longer periods of time. I don't know if that's the case. I'd just be interested in seeing if that's the case. Is there data on that? Like, is there like a math plot for like, okay, here's the judge sentencing time relative to the prosecutor's recommendation across the average of their career or something? I don't know if there's like a chart for that, but that'd be interesting.
70 to 87 months in prison. The prosecutor recommended 70 months in prison. Judge Jackson sentenced him to only 60 months. Again, that's the lowest level that was permitted by law in that case. United States versus Stewart. The defendant there distributed scores of images of children suffering sexual abuse. The guidelines recommended 97 to 121 months in prison. The prosecutor recommended 97.
Wait, I'm sorry. This is so off topic, but I just realized, like, if you're the jury on a case like that, do you have to fucking watch the sentencing material or the evidence? There's no way, right? That would be fucked. No? Sometimes yes? Okay, hopefully not. Jesus Christ. That'd be fucked beyond belief. Like, I guess you just have to take the court's word for it. Like it's verified. Like the court is like, hey, listen, trust me, it's bad. And the jury is like, okay. I think for R. Kelly they did. Huh. Maybe they only would if they feel like there's any ambiguity as to the content, whereas a lot of, like, when pedos get caught, it's like there's no ambiguity whatsoever to what type of content it is, you know? I don't know. Censored for the public? Yeah, jeez.
Months in prison. Judge Jackson gave him 57 months.
Who does the
In
censoring?
United States versus
What a fuck
Sears,
job. Jesus.
the defendant distributed over 100 videos of child pornography. The guidelines recommended 97 to 121 months in prison. The prosecutor recommended 97 months in prison. Judge Jackson gave him 71 months. In United States versus Savage, the defendant was convicted of traveling across state lines to engage in sexual intercourse with a child and also possess 6 separate thumb drives of child pornography. The guidelines recommended 46 to 57 months in prison. The prosecutor recommended 49 months in prison. Judge Jackson sentenced him to 37 months in prison. Now, those are 7 cases that represent, as near as we can tell, all of Judge Jackson's cases dealing with child pornography from her time on the district court, in which she had some discretion.
Man, I don't know. Leaving aside all the jurisprudence or whatever, if a guy got caught trying to travel across state lines to rape a minor or whatever, that shit, I don't know, dude. 37 months feels like a light touch on that one. That feels like a big un, you know? That feels like a good time to bring the hammer down personally. Like in that case, like you yoinked him in the goddamn act. I don't know. Seems like a good excuse to put a person behind bars for a while. Fuck, I don't know.
To hand down a sentence. There's some other cases in which the law, she didn't have any discretion. The law bound the sentence that she had to give. And what concerns me, and I've been very candid about this, is that in every case, in each of these 7, Judge Jackson handed down a lenient.
Why are we listening to this massive clown? You know how much of a piece of shit Holly is, right? Oh, shit, you're right. I can't listen to the words of politicians when they're bad people. What? Shut up.
Sentence that was below what the federal guidelines recommended and below what prosecutors requested. And so I think there's
platforming him.
A lot to talk about there, and I look forward to talking about it. Now, I will note that some have said that the federal sentencing guidelines are too harsh on child sex crimes, especially child pornography. I've heard that argument a lot in recent days. The chairman quoted someone earlier today who takes that point of view. I'll just be honest, I can't say that I agree with that. I mean, the amount of child pornography in circulation has absolutely exploded in recent years. Here's a New York Times report from 2019. I'm quoting now. Last year, tech companies reported over 45 million online photos and videos of children being sexually abused, more than double what they found the previous year. The report goes on to say this: 20 years ago, these online images were a problem. 10 years ago, they were an epidemic. Now the crisis is at a breaking point. Unfortunately, it's even...
By the way, it should be kept in mind that this guy does not give a shit about any of these problems, and he's exclusively using this to attack the prospective Supreme Court judge. Republicans do not care about children being raped. They do it all the time. They do it for fun. They do it when they're not even horny. It's just for them, it's just like eating and breathing. It's just a natural... It's just their body is just, it's just how they're built, and it's not good. It's a way of life. It's just another Tuesday for them, okay?
Worse than that, just last week, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children reported finding 85 million files of child pornography in 2021. And of course, this committee has heard testimony from prosecutors and others who are grappling with the problem of how to get at this porn and those who distribute it, how to prosecute them and hold them accountable. Here's my point. I think it's...
By the way, I just want to say, speaking broadly to this point, and I'm speaking here with, like, I'm sure there's, like, so much psychological research here, but it seems to me that, like, the increase in the prominence of child pornography can probably be tracked onto the increase in prominence of literally any form of media, right? It's not like child abuse only started when the internet started, right? I feel like obviously like the CP shit should be fucking cracked down on, but like it seems like the underlying shit would be the more important thing to fixate on, like the abuse itself, you know? Because if you're only fixating on the CP shit, you're only getting after it like after the fact. Like you're only ever responding to a problem, not like fixing the problem. Um, but I feel like so often it's like it's like I feel like so often with crime, the conservative attitude isn't fix the problems that cause the crime. It's just get better at punishing the people who commit the crimes, you know? But like you have to do both, right? Like you want less crime to happen, ideally. That would be good. That would be ideal. One, you know? Because I feel like, I don't know, like, I'm pretty sure, at least from what I've read historically or whatever, but like the abuse of children, at least since the Industrial Revolution, has been horrifyingly common for like a really, 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 really long time. It's clearly not like the internet existing, right? It's got to be other shit. It's got to be like the family structure and like religious norms and a bunch of other shit, which I've talked about. Yeah. I imagine it was long before the Industrial Revolution. No, I'm just saying that like the reporting we have sociologically on stuff like abuse in that respect is relatively new, you know. Unfortunately, back in the 1400s, there wasn't sociology didn't really exist as a concept. So back then, all we have are like flowery poems about like 12-year-olds being wet off, you know. And we just kind of have to extrapolate.
It's difficult against this backdrop to argue that the sentencing guidelines are too harsh or outmoded, or that we should be somehow treating child porn offenders more leniently.
Sorry, Soaked on left with a data mail point. Between 1990 and 2017, child sexual abuse declined massively. Is that true? Let me see. U.S. maltreatment trends 1990 to 2017. Neglect, physical abuse, sexual abuse. Holy shit, 64% reduction? That's awesome. That's good. I doubt these numbers are reliable. I mean, I doubt we have like perfect one-to-one numbers on this, but the trend is probably reliable, right? Like the number relative to the total number of people may not be reliable, but the proportion probably is, if that makes any sense. Well, that's good. Yeah, neglect's still going strong, but you know, call me a piece of shit. I'm gonna say that maybe on average the neglect is better than the physical or sexual abuse. I don't really know. Don't cancel me. Listen, don't just move on. Listen, okay? Don't worry about it. Look, I'm glad that everything is going down on average. Don't worry about it. Shh. Don't.
Than the guidelines recommend. But I want to be clear about this, that those arguments that I've just been rehearsing, those who say that, that's not what Judge Jackson has said. She hasn't had the chance yet to respond to this, and she deserves that chance. So others have made these arguments. I don't agree with them, but I think it's important we hear from Judge Jackson.
People in chat trying to bait me into discourse. I'm not doing discourse.
And I think, again, the candor that Judge Jackson has shown previously, I look forward to, and she deserves the ability to speak for herself on this issue. So I will just say, in closing, Mr. Chairman, some have asked, why did I raise these questions ahead of the hearing? Why not wait until the hearing and spring them on Judge Jackson, as it were? And my answer to that is very simple. I'm not interested in trapping Judge Jackson. I'm not interested in trying to play gotcha. I'm interested in her.
No, you're interested in poisoning the well.
Answers. Because I found in our time together that she was enormously thoughtful, enormously accomplished, and I suspect has a coherent view and explanation.
Also, how is it not a gotcha? This is the opening statement at the nomination hearing. How is this not... What does he mean? Like, I didn't want to trap you, you know, I'll just bring it up at the very beginning. Like, wait, what?
And a set of thinking, way of thinking about this that I look forward to hearing. And I think she deserves the chance to talk about it. I think the American people deserve the chance to hear her answers.
Thanks. Okay. So anyway, it's very obvious what he's doing here. This is basically just a suit and tie version of what I deal with all the time online. Basically, this guy understands that he and his political party need a cohesive strategy for taking this lady down. Obviously, it's not going to be attacking like the shit she actually believes, because that's hard. So instead, let's concern troll over like child porn, you know? That's the gist of it. That's the strategy. That's what's, you know, being done here. Federal sentencing disparity. Let me see. Looks like in general, judges that give lower sentences to some defendants do so across the board. That would make sense. I'd be interested in seeing what her average like sentencing level is relative to the prosecutor's recommendation. They vote after Dr. Strange. This is her average? Let me see. Here's her average? Wait, where's her average? This is just a fact check. Where's her average? Quoteth, why would you lie? I want to see the data. I have fact checks. I want the data. Why? 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 Attacks on Judge Jackson's record or child sex abuse, misleading, distorted her record. These claims are misleading. Mr. Hawley took Judge Jackson's legal recommendations, remarks out of context, Ms. Blackbird's statements, further distortion of these views. Overly broad characterization. The Commission noted in a 2012 report to Congress that existing sentencing guidelines and crime-involving images of child sexual abuse fail to differentiate among offenders in terms of their culpability and result in penalty ranges that are too severe for some offenders and too lenient for others. In a legal sense, like when the prosecution is coming down on you, when the judge is like ruling or the sentencing guidelines or whatever, does the court distinguish between child sexual abuse material that you simply possess or stuff that you produced yourself? Like, because if it doesn't distinguish between those that seems like a huge difference in terms of how bad those are. Some people are saying yes, some people are saying no. I don't really know. Under existing guideline, no mandatory minimum sentence for possessing such material, but receipt, transportation, distribution carries a 5-year minimum. Production carries a 15-year. Okay, production, yeah. The Commission recommended Congress aligns the penalties for possession and receipt, then unanimously recommended a mandatory sentence of less than 5 years for both crimes. Recommendations were in line with a 2010 survey conducted by the Commission, which 71% of district judges polled they believed the mandatory minimums for receipt of images was too high. Andrew C. McCarthy, a conservative writer and former federal prosecutor, characterized Mr. Hawley's criticisms of Jackson as a smear. It is not soft on porn to call for sensible line drawing. Plenty of hard-nosed prosecutors or Republican-appointed judges have long believed this mandatory minimum is too draconian. Huh. In fact, 3 Republican-appointed judges served in the commission with Jackson when the recommendations were released. Judge William H. Pryor, Jr. of the U.S. Court of Appeals for 11th, Judge Ricardo Hinojosa of the Southern District of Texas. Panel's recommendations are almost uniformly supported by its members, work by consensus. One expert had distinguished between less serious offenders and those who more actively share images, encourage consumption, and mask their usage. Another had spoken in the hearing about socially inadequate people who collect such material to gain some status from actually having certain images, then share them within a community online. Jesus fuck. And we make fun of like Twitter clout sharks and woke scolds, dude. Holy fuck. I find it difficult to imagine. Can you imagine somebody like bragging about this? Like, yeah, dude, I'm super popular. Oh wait, fuck. If I say this out loud, people are gonna clip me. They'll be like, wait, how do I do this joke without getting clipped? Fuck. They're like bragging about how they are popular on online forums because they possess child pornography. Can you just imagine listening to a person bragging about that? Fuck. Do a voice? Nah, there's no voice. Oh, maybe a Sargon accent? Hello, governor. No, stop. Stop. Okay, so yeah, whatever. I don't know. Excuse me. Without any broader context for the statements provided by Hawley about her general record and her general like level of sentencing relative to guidelines, with other claims posted here about plenty of judges on both sides of the aisle believing that there's some inflexibility and inaccuracy in the minimum mandatory minimums here. I don't know. I don't care. Yeah, seems dumb, seems fake, seems made up, seems like a shameless appeal to QAnon types. Don't care. Don't care. Hawley's a pedophile. Doesn't matter. Don't care. Also, I have to wonder what the fucking implication is supposed to be. like Jackson's going to be made Supreme Court, and her first ruling, like, and then the child porn case will be brought to the Supreme Court, and she'll like convince 4 other judges to. What's like, what? Not a problem anyway, because I don't think the evidence here points to her having problematic views on the subject. But like, even if it's the case, you know what I mean? Doesn't it remind you a little bit of the people who don't want like criminals to vote? Like, they think that if you're a felon, you shouldn't be able to vote. And it's like, what the fuck are they gonna do? Vote murder? Like, what? Like, what effect are they gonna have on the democracy? Which is, they're gonna legalize crime? Like, we let the criminals vote, and now like theft is legal, and it just all turns into the fucking purge? Like, okay, all right, stop. Oh yeah, also, yeah, you're right, Roy Omega. If Jackson really is lenient on people who possess child pornography, then doesn't that mean she has a pro-Republican bias? I have no idea what Holly's problem is here. This is just going to lead to more exonerations and less sentencing time for his political compatriots, okay? Right, these clips.
Listening carefully yesterday, and what impact it might have had on you personally to know that your daughters, husband, parents, family, and friends were hearing the charges that your implementation of this law, sentencing, endangered children. Could you tell us what was going through your mind at that point?
Thank you, Senator. As a mother and a judge who has had...
This seems like a weird question. Doesn't this come across like coddling? How did you feel when the bad man accused you of being a pedo sympathizer? Doesn't the language here feels like it's an attempt at trying to garner sympathy for her, but it just comes off as kind of patronizing, in my opinion.
To deal with these cases, I was thinking that nothing could be further from the truth. These are some of the most difficult cases that a judge has to deal with, because we're talking about pictures of sex abuse of children. We're talking about graphic descriptions that judges have to read and consider when they decide how to sentence in these cases. And there's a statute that tells judges what they're supposed to do. Congress has decided what it is that a judge has to do in this and any other case when they sentence. And that statute doesn't say, look only at the guidelines and stop. The statute doesn't say, impose the highest possible penalty for this sickening and egregious crime. The statute says, calculate the guidelines, but also look at various aspects of this offense and impose a sentence that is, quote, sufficient but not greater than necessary to promote the purposes of punishment. And in every case, when I am dealing with something like this, it is important to me to make sure that the children's perspective, the children's voices are represented in my sentencings.
Seems like a weird situation to try to deal with.
Martin Luther King Jr., who dreamt of a time when, quote,
No fucking way. Judge Jackson talks about her reality was completely different than that of her parents, who had to attend racially segregated schools. The fact that we've come this far made testament to the hope. God damn it, dude. Fuck. White liberals really cannot help themselves, can they? I just need to tell you how inspiring I find it that a young colored woman like yourself is sitting there in the Supreme Court nominee bench.
sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners.
Oh, is he a Republican? Well, Republicans are also liberals, unless they're fascists. Is he a fascist, or is he like a Grassley? Is he a fash, or is he a like lib Republican? He's bad? Okay, never mind. Listen, okay? What are liberals but spiceless fascists, okay? What are liberals but fascists who don't salt their water before boiling pasta?
Owners would be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood, end of quote. You talked about how quickly things in the country then changed, including the civil rights laws, over the next few years because of the civil rights movement. You added that, quote, less than a decade after Dr. King's words, that was the world that you inhabited. Dr. King hoped for a country where we would all.
He sounds like Kermit. I feel like his throat is experiencing necrosis from like senile death as he's talking, you know? That like only parts of him are responding to his brain.
All be judged by the content of our character rather than our race. Do these quotes still reflect your views on this very important topic today?
Yes, Senator. In that speech, I talked about my background, my upbringing, the fact that my parents, when they were growing up in Miami, Florida, attended and had to attend racially segregated schools. Because by law, when they were young, white children and black children were not allowed to go to school together.
What?
And my reality,
They can't do that.
when
That's
I was
illegal.
born in 1970 and went to school in Miami, Florida, was completely different. I went to a diverse public junior high school, elementary school. And the fact that we had come that far was, to me, a testament to the hope and the promise of this country, the greatness of America, that in one generation, we could go from racially segregated schools in Florida to have me sitting here as the first Floridian ever to be nominated to the Supreme Court of the United States.
Okay, so here's the Graham bit.
Did you know that a lot of people from the left were trying to destroy Michelle Childs? Did you notice that?
Senator, a lot of people were
Okay, Republicans do love raping children, but Graham gives me the impression of somebody who likes watching somebody else rape children and feeling cucked by the experience. Do you get my vibe there? Like Lindsay would pay somebody else to rape a child while watching and get off on the humiliation that he's not doing it. Like he's somehow found a level below his compatriots there.
supporting various people for this nomination.
Yeah, while sipping like a mint julep.
So you're saying you didn't know there was a concerted effort to disqualify Judge Childs from South Carolina because she was union-busting, unreliable Republican in disguise?
Senator, I'm a sitting judge. I was focused on my cases.
Well, the answer is no, I didn't know that.
No, I didn't know that.
Would it bother you if that happened?
What?
Senator, it is troublesome that people are or were doing things related to
I think
the
that's the
nomination.
best way to say it. People have a right to speak out and pick the person of their choice.
What? I'm sorry, wait, can I want to listen to it again. I just feel like, what?
Did you know that a lot of people from the left were trying to destroy Michelle Childs? Did you notice that?
Senator, a lot of people were supporting various people for this nomination.
So you're saying you didn't know there was a concerted effort to disqualify Judge Childs from South Carolina because she was union-busting, unreliable Republican in disguise?
I feel like he's giving so much away here, you know? Like he's angry that the person that he's talking to right now isn't a union buster, you know? Like yeah, no, this is how appointments work. Joe Biden nominated her. That's how it works. Yeah. Okay. He's like, are you aware that Joe Biden didn't pick a worse candidate because of their shitty opinions? Like, all right. Think he's talking about Biden's shortlist for the SCOTUS? Yeah, but he still has to choose from it, right? What a fucking weirdo.
quoted
It won't bother me as long as they're dangerous. I hope they all die in jail if they're going to go back and kill Americans. It won't bother me one bit if 39 of them die in prison.
Yeah, what the fuck are we talking about?
As long as they're dangerous, I hope they all die in jail if they're going to go back and kill Americans. It won't bother me one bit if 39 of them die in prison. That's a better outcome than letting them go. And if it costs $500 million to keep them in jail, keep them in jail, because they're going to go back to the fight. Look at the friggin' Afghan government. It's made up of former detainees at Gitmo. This whole thing by the left about...
Wait, Trump was the one who let those Taliban officials go. Wait, what? Wait, are we... What? Wait, Trump was the one... Fucking Kabul was taken by people that Trump let go. Okay.
This war ain't working.
Let me also note that Larry Thompson, who served as Deputy Attorney General under President George W. Bush,
Okay. All right. Cornyn asked Judge Jackson if she celebrated Clarence Thomas's nomination to SCOTUS. Why are they being so weird?
When Clarence Thomas, the second African-American who was nominated to and
aren't Republicans always arguing that libs and Dems are the ones who make everything about race and Republicans are like totally race blind? Why the fuck do they keep doing this? She hasn't said anything about race.
When Clarence Thomas, the second African-American who was nominated to and confirmed by the Supreme Court, was nominated to the court, did you celebrate that as a historic event?
What?
I'm trying to remember where I was at the time. I believe I did. Yes.
Okay. Warren seems to have an issue with SCOTUS's 2015 ruling that same-sex couples have a right to marry.
I am aware that there are various religious faiths that define marriage in a traditional way.
Do you see that when the Supreme Court makes a dramatic pronouncement about the invalidity of state marriage laws, that it will inevitably set in conflict between those who ascribe to the Supreme Court's edict and those who have a firmly held religious belief that marriage is between a man and a woman?
Well, Senator, these issues are being litigated, as you know, throughout the courts as people raise issues. And so I'm limited in what I can say about them. I'm aware that there are cases.
No, I'm not asking you to decide a case or predict how you would decide in the future. I'm just asking, isn't it apparent that when the Supreme Court decides that something that is not even in the Constitution is a fundamental right and no state can pass any law that...
What? What a fucking retard. Nowhere in the Constitution is there a fundamental right to hot dogs, but you also can't refuse to sell hot dogs to black people. What? Something doesn't need to be defined as a fundamental right in the Constitution for it to be possible for a state to rule that you can discriminate in the distribution of that product or service. It's not how that works. World's smartest fucking... Actually, there is Vosh 14 Amendment. Well, that doesn't apply here? That's not like a just a broad excuse for any kind of to discriminate in any respect whatsoever against like any kind of thing. Didn't stop Jim Crow. I can't tell if I'm getting fucked with right now. I think I'm too tired for this. I got sleepy brain. 14th Amendment is right to hot dogs? Yes, the 14th Amendment is a right to hot dogs. That is correct. That's not what he's saying. He's being a dunce saying no federal law above state law. That is not in the Constitution. Wait, federal law is above state law all the time. Constantly. That happens all the time. Oh, you're right. I didn't have my meth vermin. Good one. I love federal law being above state law. Thank you, Hamilton. Fuck yeah, supremacy clause. Fuck yeah, supremacy clause. Let's go.
Conflicts with the Supreme Court's edict, particularly in an area where people have sincerely held religious beliefs. Doesn't that necessarily create a conflict between what people may believe is a matter of their religious doctrine or faith and what the federal government says is the law of the land?
Well, Senator, that is the nature of a right, that when there is a right, it means that there are limitations on regulation, even if people are regulating pursuant to their sincerely held religious beliefs.
You agree with marriage is not mentioned in the Constitution, is it?
It is not mentioned directly, no.
And religious freedom and is mentioned in the First Amendment explicitly, correct?
It is.
What? Okay. Religious freedom doesn't mean that you can just do whatever your religion says you should do. Religious freedom doesn't mean that like jihadists get to like behead people. Okay, whatever. It doesn't. Yeah, it's stupid. This is dumb. Cut the segment. It's dumb. We have more shit to get to. Cut it. Cut. Stop.